Hello there. You might notice a new wallpaper in the background for the anticipated release of the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection by Digital Eclipse. I'm going to be checking out the Digital Eclipse booth at PAX West today or tomorrow. There's a lot of stuff going on between PAX and the Seattle Loves Indies Creators Expo. I think that's the acronym. And they had an event on Wednesday, which was great. There's a lot of independent developers here in Seattle. That's pretty exciting. A lot of cool ideas and a lot of support. Um, but there's PAX itself. There is also the Seattle Independent Expo 6, which is on Sunday, that I'll be attending. So, Mortal Kombat is a series that I've enjoyed since the arcade days. And in my time at Midway, I was fortunate enough to be able to voice the character Dairu in Mortal Kombat Armageddon. And it was a lot of fun. Got to work with Dan Forden, the OG MK audio and music guru. And he's still at it. I worked on MK1 along with my friend Will Roget, who has done some incredible soundtracks over the years. Let's take care of this. I'm going to be answering today's question. I noticed that some people print out their questions. I'm not into killing trees if I can help it, or if it's unless absolutely necessary. So I'm going to use my my iPad to answer today's questions. So I don't know if anybody watching this is going to PAX, but if you're there, go ahead and drop me a line in the Discord or comment, and you could possibly see me in person. I will be doing a bunch of wandering around, but also a number of people that I'll be meeting, old friends and new ones. So let's go and get to the question today, shall we? Scroll, scroll, scroll. Get things ready. Okay, getting there. We've still got a bunch of questions to answer. Wow, I've got some catching up to do. Okay. Having lunch at That's right. I've answered one of Mika's questions, but I think there's there's some follow-up questions from Mika here. Is that a chord keyboard? Oh, I already answered that one. Never mind. Okay, let's get to the actual next question. Here we go. Charlie from France. Bonjour. You said in the last video you worked from artwork and story to build songs like Deus Ex and Unreal. But did the devs sometimes have their own idea of a song or style they tried to translate to you directly? Example, a level designer has a specific song or style in mind for a specific map. Will he try to nudge personal ideas to you, speech or text, or did you mostly work from visuals and stories given to you? Great question, Charlie. Cliff Bleszinski had the most specific ideas with Unreal. I didn't really get specific direction on Deus Ex. There was the time that Warren was like, there's something that sounds like bagpipes in the main theme, and maybe you could adjust it a little bit. And then he changed his mind and said, no, it's stuck in my head. I'm hoping in a good way. I'm pretty sure it was in a good way. And then say, don't change it. In Invisible War, there was direction. I think from Harvey Smith, and the team was headed in a direction of what they called an immersive simulation. But I was intimidated because I thought I wasn't intellectual enough, and that is a mistake. I'm going to offer that as a side note to people that get the feeling that, like, there's a colleague of mine that used the word topology, and I didn't understand what that meant, so I had to look it up. It was harder to look things up in the days of Deus Ex and Invisible War, and so I was intimidated by the notion of things like immersive simulation and, I'm not good enough for this team in terms of my brain, which, I had that as a concern. on Invisible War, mainly because there were people that had worked for on the Thief series and people that were brought in new that had some what seemed like more heady, smart game dev concepts in mind. And I thought, well, I'm going to be an outsider because I'm coming from Unreal, which is more FPS than anything else. Let's face it. It has an adventure aspect, but it doesn't have a ton of depth. It doesn't have the same approach as Thief. So Thief was the immersive sim, excuse me, sort of starting point, where people and System Shock played into that. Both of those were, where do we go in first person beyond shooting, beyond death matching, beyond that. And it was certainly a great idea. And boy, am I fortunate to have been part of those things. I did contribute in a small way to Thief Deadly Shadows, which I thought was a great game. Point being, on Invisible War, the instructions were, let's make the music not as melodic, not as specific to itself, not more, not even so much aleatoric versus non-aleatoric. What is aleatoric? Well, these are terms that are used when you have music that is either in a world, like a radio playing, or a music that plays outside of it. But music that plays outside can be atmospheric, and it can contribute to even the sound design immersiveness of a game. So there's a spectrum of terms that are used when we're trying to figure things out. And oh boy, people saying AI coming for us. Well, we humans need to figure out our own communication methods. It's certainly something that always needs improvement. I'm really going into this question pretty far. Point being, yes, the music was asked to be more atmospheric, toned down. Fans didn't really like that a lot. They did like the original in terms of having melody and varied styles and in-your-face electronics and instrumentation versus more atmospheric stuff. I like atmospheric where atmospheric applies, like Hong Kong Canal. I haven't heard any complaints about that in Deus Ex 1, and that is a very low-key piece of music. And fans loved it. Steve Powers, the designer of that map, loved it. I loved it. I thought it worked great. But in certain cases, you had like Hong Kong streets, and well, heck, Liberty Island was pretty atmospheric in its own way. So what was the lesson from that? The lesson was in Invisible War, it should have been more of a communication. There should have been more communication about like, well, let's see what needs atmosphere versus non-atmosphere. In terms of specific songs on Unreal and such, an Unreal Tournament, yes, Cliff used Spybreak by Propellerhead as a reference for Deck 16, and that's what Go Down and Michiel's piece was based on, which I think was Bot MCA 10, 11. Generic song names. I really preferred, I mean, I think I named Foregone Destruction. I think that was a name that I gave to Michiel's piece because I think it started life as a MCA piece. He wasn't as into the naming of stuff, and I'm kind of glad that I was just like, man, this needs to have a more specific term. Anyway, so Spybreak was used for that. I would hear in later years that Cliff would say, "Hey, I want Eminem to provide music for Gears of War." I'm kind of glad that that wasn't the case for Unreal, although you got to keep an open mind. I was for Wasteland 3, Brian Fargo and Matt Finley found Mary Ramos, who's a music supervisor, and they found ways to take Americana public domain pieces of music and have them performed by newer bands in a sort of retro style that fans went nuts for, even though there were lyrics in it during the game. I wasn't the biggest fan of this at first, and then I started thinking like, geez, well, we just how do we make it work? Like, players are really going for it. It's a new age. Lyrics in games. Wow. I mean, look at the beginning of Death Stranding, right? You're wandering around. There's no dialogue because the music gets to set the tone there. But it's a lyrical piece of music, an actual song. I'm pretty sure the Horizon series does this as well. So it's a thing. But it was just something I wasn't used to. Anyway, all of those are examples of being given specific references. There are times when, again, spectrums and being flexible, so important because a lot of us feel like there's hard lines on things that we feel comfortable with. And I respect people's comfort levels and what people are okay with and their boundaries. Having said that, I've had my own boundaries that I thought, if I could go back and change my mind, that would have been a good idea for the most part. So there's cases where specific ideas are great ideas. I think Spybreak was a great reference. I think that even though we didn't get a chance to use it in whatever game, maybe it was after Unreal Tournament or just a canceled vampire game for Epic or whatever it was. The Dark City trailer. Oh my God, that was so inspiring. Cliff sent me that trailer. I fell in love with it. It made me really want to write the piece of music that is on Bandcamp, The Craftsman. That's what turned into The Craftsman, which is available. Go listen to it if you haven't already. It's one of the most popular singles that I've released. So yeah, I've gotten references, but at the same time, there's also a lot of places where if you just let the composing team or the composer just do their thing, amazing things can happen if you just let go and you don't micromanage. Yeah, so thanks for the question and looking forward to answering the next one.